Thorpe Park is one of the most popular and best theme parks here in the UK, with a fantastic selection of roller coasters and other rides and attractions. Obviously in 2024 we know they're getting the brand new Mack Rides Hyper Coaster, the tallest coaster and fastest coaster in the UK at 236 feet tall, speeds of over 80 miles per hour. So many people are saying this is easily going to be the best coaster in the park, probably the best coaster in the UK when it opens, and I do agree with all of this. However, I think Thorpe Park has a fantastic collection of rides and roller coasters at the park already, and I just don't want Hyperia to overshadow all of the different new coasters that are at the park already. And for that reason, I think today I'm going to be doing a current ranking of Thorpe Park's current coasters, giving them all the credit they deserve, before we obviously get Hyperia next year, which obviously will be the best coaster at the park when it opens. For as good as Thorpe Park is, for as good as the ride lineup that it currently has is, it is lacking that one true standout elite coaster. It's got a great supporting cast of coasters, but with Hyperia it will have that truly elite #1 coaster, and I think that will make Thorpe Park one of the best parks in the country. I think it will probably have the best lineup of coasters for thrill seekers out there in the country. Have that truly elite coaster with a fantastic supporting cast of roller coasters. So let's get into Thorpe Park roller coasters ranked. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a like, it massively helps out the channel. Subscribe to Coasternaut for more videos like this in the future, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's get into today's video. So then, starting off with probably the worst coaster for me personally at Thorpe Park, that is the Flying Fish. This obviously just isn't targeted for me. It's the park's only true family coaster. It's a very small sort of figure of 8 layout. It's a Mack Rides power coaster. I do quite like the train design, but you know, there's not really much theming on this, even for a kids coaster. Obviously not a very thrilling layout. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's a very small junior coaster. I think there probably needs to be another coaster sort of in between this and the thrill rides, sort of family thrill coaster. I think there's definitely a gap within Thorpe's lineup, a new potential coaster after Hyperia, but for me the worst coaster at the park is obviously the Flying Fish. Next up we have The Walking Dead The Ride. This is the park's only indoor coaster, and it's a custom sort of Vekoma Enigma coaster. I think the theming for this ride is fantastic. Sort of the outside queue area is really nice with the overall entrance sign. Both the queue line and sort of after the ride, there's a sort of, I don't know what you call it, sort of opposite of queue line as you leave the ride, the exit line I suppose it would be called. Both really well themed. There's some sort of okay theming on the ride itself, but overall, you know, not the most thrilling coaster. It is just a standard Vekoma Enigma coaster indoors, not very thrilling. But for what the theming that goes alongside the ride, it definitely boosts the ride up in my opinion. It'd be better than if it was just obviously a coaster inside a box, or if it was an outdoor coaster. You've got to appreciate the level of theming here. It's probably Thorpe's second best themed coaster in my opinion after the Swarm. So you know, it might actually be the overall best themed coaster depending on how you actually view things. But you know, not the best coaster at the park in terms of the actual ride experience and how thrilling it is, but a good supporting coaster to have nonetheless. Coming up next, in my opinion, we have Colossus. This is an Intamin 10 inversion coaster. This opened at the park in 2002. I'm sort of probably one of the first major thrill coasters at the park. Height of 98 feet tall, a top speed of 44 miles per hour, and those 10 inversions. Obviously, there's lots of iconic heartline rolls at the end of the ride. And I think the thing that ruins it for me here is actually just the restraints. I think when you look at a newer sort of clone of this coaster, such as Sick at Flamingo Land, that features the lap bars and slightly different profile, albeit, you know, it is an okay layout of a coaster. I think when you look at something like Sick at Flamingo Land, like I say, with the lap bars, you know, some of the elements have slightly better airtime, slightly less painful through the inversions when you look at the different profiling. But for me, yeah, the thing that just unfortunately lets it down is the actual train design. It's very small, the actual train, so for someone who's quite tall like me, it hurts sort of your lower shins and knees area. It's not the most comfortable train to sit in. The over-the-shoulder restraints definitely a bit of a head bashy on some of those inversions, especially sort of those quad heartline rolls at the end of the ride. It could do with a bit of a retrack in my opinion, and don't get me wrong, it looks as if they have been doing that on those heartline rolls this past off-season, but for me it's just not the best ride in terms of comfortability, but an okay layout nonetheless. Up next we have Saw the Ride. This is a 2009 Gerstlauer Eurofighter with a custom layout that opened at the park, and again a really well themed coaster. The nice little indoor section that it's got at the start of the ride, it's sort of surprise drop, the indoor inversion, that section's really cool. I think it does get let down a bit by the outside section. It's a bit short and also a bit rough, especially at the bottom of that first drop, the beyond vertical drop. It has a very noticeable pothole in that sort of end of the first drop. You know, it's not the most comfortable ride. There's definitely a big jolt if you're on the wrong train, on a wheel seat potentially, which combined with those over the shoulder restraints can be quite painful at times. It's not horrendous for the rest of the ride. It's a bit jolty and shaky in places, as most Gerstlauer Eurofighters are, but it's not dreadful. You know, once again, the theming sort of boosts this ride up. I love the head chopper with the saws on the first drop. Only ride in the park with a beyond vertical drop as well, which makes it stand out. A really good ride. It could just do with a bit of retracking, a bit of smoothing out, and if there's any way they can get some of the new Gerstlauer trains on there with the lap bars rather than the over the shoulders, that would make this coaster even better. I don't know if that's actually a possibility or not on an older Eurofighter like this, but if it is possible, I'd love to see them get newer trains because it would make the ride a lot more comfortable. Up next we have Nemesis Inferno. This is a B&M custom inverted coaster. It's not as good, unfortunately, as the B&M inverted coaster Nemesis at Alton Towers, and I think, you know, because of the name and the association with Nemesis, it does get a lot of slander, a lot of a bad reputation because of its links to Nemesis, one of the most iconic and best coasters out there anywhere in the world. But it's not as bad as some people say. You know, it's not as good as the original Nemesis. This opened in 2003 compared to the first one, which opened in 1994. But you know, it's perfectly fine. It's got a height of 95 feet, a top speed of 48 miles per hour, 4 inversions. You know, it's quite intense in places as well, such as the first Nemesis was. But you know, it does probably suffer because it has those ties to the original Nemesis, and I think it probably would do a bit better, have a better reputation if it didn't have a similar name to the original Nemesis coaster, because it's not as bad as some people say. It's a really good little inverted coaster, not one of the biggest inverts in the world, but a perfectly fine supporting ride for the park. And on to the final two now. We actually have the Swarm. This is a B&M custom wing coaster, the park's last new coaster. It opened in 2012 prior to Hyperia opening in 2024. This is really nice. You know, such as most wing coasters do, the inversions on this are really smooth, really graceful. I think up until the mid-course brake win, it's a really fantastic ride. I think the mid-course brake win, if I'm honest, is just there to improve capacity, because after the mid-course, you literally just turn a corner and then you're into the final brakes. It's a really disappointing end to the ride. I think they definitely either should have just let it go straight into the final brakes with much more speed through that final sort of turn into the brake run around that lake, or they should have extended the ride and had some sort of a different ending to the ride, because it really is a disappointing end. But again, such as a lot of the rides here at Thorpe Park, fantastic theming throughout the ride, really graceful, really smooth inversions, a very unique coaster, not just to Thorpe Park but for the whole country. And a really fantastic coaster to come in at number 2. And before Hyperia opens, the current standout of the park, the best coaster at Thorpe Park as we speak, the 2006 Intimate Accelerator coaster, Stealth. Don't get me wrong, this is a very short ride experience, one of the shortest rides anywhere in the world. This is a 205 foot tall, 80 miles per hour in just 1.9 seconds. You literally get launched from one of those classic Intamin hydraulic launches on the accelerator coasters, up the top part, straight back down, over an airtime hill and into the brake run. It's a really short, really snappy ride, but that launch is one of the best launches out there on any coaster. It's not as tall as something like Top Thrill Dragster, it's not as long as something like Rita, but that launch is super punchy, super intense, really fantastic, and currently the best coaster at Thorpe Park in my opinion. Do you agree with my rankings though? Would you have different coasters in different places? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down on my rankings in the comments section below. If you did enjoy today's video, again, please do give it a like. It massively helps out the channel. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear your Thorpe Park coasters ranked down in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching again. Subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.